Hey, BATT Family. We cannot believe it is almost the end of March and we're just now getting this interview out to you. We are lucky enough to have the designer of Tenpenny Parks, Nate Linhart, on for a standalone interview right around the time of the Kickstarter campaign going live for the brand new expansions, Winter Lights and Spooky Nights, and Innovation. That was the second week of October, but between the launch of Season 2 of the podcast, PAX, the holidays, sicknesses, and just everything else that happens at the end of a year, this one just somehow missed our release radar, and it shouldn't have, so shame on us. This is a super fun interview, and we're putting it out to you in support of the Kickstarter campaign's Pledge Manager closing on March 31st. Have a good time listening to our interview, and then go back it if you still haven't. You've still got time for it to ship to you later in the summer, or you can go pick it up at Gen Con. I can't guarantee the pricing we quote at the end is still totally accurate, but it's still going to be worth it regardless. And honestly, thank you again to Nate for joining us, and we cannot wait to play the new stuff. Hey, BATT Family. Welcome to a pretty unique piece of content. We have never done anything like this. We are having a live interview with a game designer. Scott, how are you doing?
I mean, we have an actual game designer here. This is going to be kind of cool.
Jason?
I'm here. I'm excited to talk.
I just look like, I'm here.
You just made me drop everything with that joke.
Sorry.
Watching his brain just go... It was great. So we should probably introduce the guest of the hour here. We have Nate Linhart, the designer of Tenpenny Parks, published by Thunderworks Games. And there is a brand new expansion up on Kickstarter, which we are very excited to talk about. So Nate, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Mark. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really honored to be your guest.
It's pretty cool. We've had some other industry people around, but it's always been for specific talks where we never had an opportunity to do just a specific, hey, we want to interview you about your game. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm really, really appreciative.
So we were very kindly provided a copy of Tenpenny by Thunderworks and by Jess. Hi, Jess. You're wonderful. And we have been really enjoying this. We talked a little bit before we started, and this is a game that has grown on me significantly. And I just wanted to start with essentially kind of a mini design diary, if you're willing to. I know there is the design diary that you published on Board Game Geek that is still linked on the games page there, and there's going to be stuff coming out with the new campaign, but is there anything that you wanted to highlight about Tenpenny itself?
Yeah, I mean, I started this game working on it a long time ago. I think it was the start of 2016, and I was really craving there to be a theme park game out there. And in 2016 there wasn't very many of that theme at the time, and just one day I had a weird inkling that I wanted to start designing one and just see what would happen from there, and started brainstorming that evening, and all this time later Tenpenny Parks finally came out.
When you started, I think really the only other theme park games I can come up with are like Funfair and Unfair. And I know, Scott, you're a big fan of those. But
Yeah,
these
I love
are
Funfair.
pretty different.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, these are totally different stratospheres because Unfair is tableau building, where this using the polyominoes. Like, you don't really worry about the size of your rides or how they fit in your park. You're just trying to attract the most attention, where you've got all the nice little mechanics that are here in Tenpenny that really just speak to it being a totally different game.
I do have to ask, was it under Thunderworks guidance or did you request? How did Vincent Dutray end up on this? Because this might be his best work. And that's saying so because I love his work.
I know he's done so much, and obviously he's arguably one of the two most notorious designers, but of all his artwork, and maybe I'm biased, I really do think this is my favorite of his, and it's because he really hits that just fun, quirky, vibrant theme park aesthetic so well. I mean, you could immediately tell it is Vincent Dutray artwork the moment you see it, and just the goofiness and silliness and seriousness and all of that combined of what he created. It's better than I could have ever envisioned. So Thunderworks is the one that did, I think, to give him a call. I mean, they asked me, what artist could I have in mind for it? And I was still pretty young in the industry. I didn't really have a clue. I knew Dutray's name back then, but I didn't think he'd be someone gettable to do such a project like this.
his little details and his fun little things, like you said. I mean, we're looking at the cover of the game right now, and like the merman riding a shark and the weird like alien invasion board being carried. Like it gives the game such vibrancy.
It really did. You know, when I was making the game, I was envisioning more of a generic modern theme park setting. So having this whimsical artwork, I just love it even so much more. It's better than I would have dreamed of.
The artwork, it sets it apart because it does make it feel older, yet still very new, because it's artwork and the stylizing and the typography, all the font settings and stuff like that is just screams 30s and 40s and 50s. Like it's back in the day when festivals and fairs would just spring up during a thing, and that's kind of how this almost feels like to me.
So I did want to ask you on the theme as well. The theme, when you're reading it, comes off like, wait a minute. And when I was reading the design diary, you were very intentional that the city of Fairview would have basically the home of theme parks. Is there a reason you were going that way versus something like, you were each planning a different design and whoever's the most successful gets it? Why did you want it to be, we are all in the same spot at the same area?
My vision was just always, I know I wanted everyone to build their own separate theme park. I didn't want everyone building the same park together. I wanted everyone to have their own unique experience by the end of it. And I think Thunderworks did a really good job of having the story unfold of Mayor Tenpenny wanting Fairview to be the land of theme parks. And partially that might be too, because we're in an area where there's several theme parks around us as well. There's the Wisconsin Dells, which is not too far from where Thunderworks is located, and I don't know if this matters to them at all, but it's kind of a little bit of a land of theme parks, but I do really like storytelling choices that they made.
I actually was going to ask you that because I know you're out in Chicago, so you're not terribly far from us and you're not terribly far from them either. Was this inspired at all by places like Cedar Point, Kings Island, Wisconsin Dells like that, or did you just like it because of Roller Coaster Tycoon or something?
I mean, Roller Coaster Tycoon was the biggest of all, but with that, I'm a huge theme park lover. I went to Universal Studios, Disneyland. There's a Six Flags 45 minutes from my house here.
Six Flags over there in Chicagoland, yeah.
Yeah, so I've just always loved theme parks in general, and that's why I was craving a board game with that theme.
I mean, this is a great one to go ahead and have a parallel to Roller Coaster Tycoon, but even to go ahead and give Tenpenny Parks an up, you don't have to clean up puke in this one. It's just so much better.
Yeah, maybe in a janitor expansion down the line. Trust me, that the idea has popped in my brain of some sorts. But.
Oh my gosh. I absolutely do love this game because I love sitting there going, okay, if I get this, I can make it fit here. I need to get this thing, so I need to at least clear this many trees. What made you go with the whole idea of having the obstacles? Did you always know you wanted joy and awe and thrill to be your driving elements of the game?
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, I mean, back to just 2016, at that time, polyomino games weren't exploding on the market yet either. So kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, I just thought about Tetris shaped pieces, polyomino pieces, and placing them on a gridded board and making sure everything fits in. And I just thought of immediately trees being in the way as obstacles. And if you want to make room for them, you can remove some to get more space. And the whole puzzle of the tiles not touching and that adjacency rule that makes Tenpenny so unique. That wasn't to be unique or be a twist on the polyomino mechanic at the time. I just figured, there's space between rides or safety reasons. It looks like a real theme park when you're all said and done with that. So that ended up being the core puzzle and element of the game that I love so much.
Yeah, the non-adjacency really added this level of complexity to it that makes it a fun, unique way to try to map your pieces out, but also looking at your secret objectives. Having yourself kind of mapping out depending upon when those other set pieces are coming out, it makes it more of you need to think 3 steps ahead type of game so that you can plot everything out the right way. And it feels very appropriate. It really hits the mark on that one. I like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're not just building rides on top of each other, safety codes, etc. That was just what went in my brain. And yeah, the thrill, awe, and joy, the emotions. I just knew I wanted there to be some tracks that people were competing over. And I was thinking of, the park's adrenaline factor and how beautiful your park is. And the happiness sparked from your park were all major things that, that we eventually called emotion track that I felt would be the essence of a theme park. That's what you're trying to do, is have the most joyful, thrilling parks to compete over.
It makes the game really interesting because, like Jason hit on, and I think this is one of the reasons it took me a couple plays to get into it, is realizing the game, for being polyominoes and being tracks and everything, it really is a timing puzzle almost more than anything else, because you have very tight action pools and you have to get X, Y, and Z thing done. And in kind of a almost Splatter-esque move, if you place something wrong at the beginning, you can kind of screw yourself over if you're not paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
But the game is so stinking fast that... Unlike a splatter game where I don't realize that I screwed myself up in the second turn on hour 3, it's 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, nuts. Like, I really appreciate it about this game.
I think a timing puzzle is a perfect way to put that. I like that a lot. I would really, really like someday for this to be a tournament game at conventions, just because of how fast it plays. And someone that played the game several times versus someone going into their first time seeing the puzzle strategy of the adjacency rules and timing puzzle in general and how important some things are. I've just really felt since it came out that this could be a really good strategy tournament game at conventions.
Well, not to belabor the point we talked earlier, but one of the best things when you go to watch a game at a tournament is, does it look awesome on the table? And frankly, this one looks really, really stinking pretty.
Did you always want your mechanism to be the carousel? Almost, it's because it's almost Rondell-esque on how you get the attractions / the adjustments of the pricing. Was that always the mechanism you wanted to use?
No, it was a completely different mechanic at the start. I was really into Power Grid at the time, and I was really into bidding. I had it as a bidding game at first. It started off with getting parts for attractions, and then it just became bidding for straight up attractions. And like most bidding games and design-wise, it just creates really messy scenarios the way I had it. So after working on it for about a year and a half at that point, I wanted to get more serious about it, and I loved what I was creating, but the bidding just was so inconsistent and could ruin the game experience at times. I just realized I had to kind of start over from scratch with that whole aspect, and I just brainstormed and I came up with a few ideas, and eventually it just hit me, I don't know, just a wheel or carousel and the rides being around it, and I was like, well, I want the carousel or market to move, and I eventually came up with the idea that you could manipulate it so the market prices would change, and that's kind of just the main story of how that unfolded.
I mean, it's very, very smart. It makes sense when you sit there and you're like, here's my card, here's the modifier, I know how much I'm spending.
And layering it together with the tracks on the side, with awe and all of that, it just makes this cool layered aspect of, I need to go ahead and increase my awe so that I can go ahead and control who gets to go first, because who gets to go first defines what the market prices are going to be. And it feels like all of that culminates together, so you can't just focus on one aspect of the game. You need to kind of hit all of the points so you get a full experience pretty much every time you play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, that was the goal of building it, making a quick, fun amusement park game that provides enough strategy and a lot of having to change your game plan from turn to turn.
As a follow-up question on the tracks, so they're very reminiscent to me of one of my all-time favorite games, Shakespeare, the 2015 game from Istari Games. It has the 3 horizontal tracks like that as well for the 3 acts of the show. Was a game like that, or were there any particular influences that led you to the track design, or were you just wanting an easy quantitative way to deal with visitors' emotions?
Yeah, I've seen that Shakespeare comparison. I've never played Shakespeare still to this day. I want to. And
That's so good.
The tracks look so similar. No, there was really no inspiration behind that. I mean, when I started working on the design, very early versions, I had like 8 tracks and 8 different emotions you were competing over.
Oh, wow.
All with like attempted separate varying rewards, and I just found it to be too much, and it eventually got settled on 3 as it really came down to things.
It's a good choice, I think.
It's a good sweet spot to go ahead and have, especially since all 3 of them have a very specific power. Some of the other games that we have tracks like that give you certain things. You just get it at the end of the round for being so high. But in this one, being able to either just get a victory point instead of getting the power, or using the power and dialing yourself back one, that is a really cool aspect of the game, where I'm going to go ahead and make a big change, like I'm going to go ahead and get first player, but it's going to go ahead and take a little bit of that awe away. And thematically, it kind of seems like a fun thing to see. All right, do I want to go ahead and try to eke out a couple victory points here and there? am I going to go ahead and let them stay in the first spot? And the answer to that I found out is no.
Well, rude.
I think that this choice of taking the VP or going back is, once again, every action is really important in this timing puzzle. And scores can be really tight in this game. One little mistake or decision that could put you 1 point behind someone or 1 point ahead by the end of the game.
Yeah.
So let's switch over to the expansions coming out, because there are a lot of things coming. And I'm looking at the campaign page right now. I am already a backer of it because I enjoy it as much as I do. But you've got 3 expansions coming out. I know it's in 2 boxes, but essentially 3 expansions. If it's okay, I'd like to just do a quick overview of each of the 3 of them and question those, and then we can keep going from there.
Yeah, of course.
So the first one that I'm looking at is the innovation expansion, and I see new researchers in there. I see a new board that has kind of a modular slide on. What's the big deal with innovation? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, innovation is trying to make the game slightly more complex and a little bit more strategy involved. Basically, during your action phase, you can alternatively move up a research track where you'll have these little researcher meeples, and as you said, it fits right nicely at the bottom of the board. And each time you move up that track, you'll get a new sort of bonus or perk, such as getting more scoring options and a different way of scoring at the start of the game. Getting specialists that'll give you special powers, which we felt was something missing in Tenpenny. You'll get a special expansion tile that will only be for you, but each of the tiles, even though it's a free tile you're going to get through in the game, they each have their own little rule to them, such as there's a castle in the middle of one of the tiles that you can only build a fantasy ride on, or a lake that you can only build a water attraction on. So it really made each player, park, and strategy differentiate from one another and much more in this expansion. In addition to, of course, more attractions and more things that add to the replayability factor.
So when you're saying that you can use your researcher in place of your turn, does that essentially act as a 4th worker, or are you spending your other actions to do that?
Yeah, it's essentially a 4th worker in that regard. You will spend your turn doing that instead.
Nice. Oh, that's exciting. I like that.
I'm loving the look of the double color attractions. Those look really, really neat, because it does make sense, because there are so many things that are in amusement park nowadays that are like, this is a jungle water ride.
Also, the fact there's extra trees. Very happy about that.
That is true. That's where we always ran, and we're like, we don't have enough trees.
We expand our parks a lot.
We expand our parks and we don't kill trees.
I've heard that before. I myself personally, especially because I love the tree meeples so much, I have bought several extra tree meeple packs over the years, because even for prototype components, etc. Because I just love those meeples. So.
That's awesome.
Gotta have a lot of trees.
So from the sounds of it, innovation is an expansion for people that have played the game. It doesn't sound like this is going to be one that I want to teach with.
You know, it'll flow so nicely into the game that if you taught the game with it from the very beginning, I don't think you would have much difficulties at all. It almost feels like an expansion that's so seamless of a transition that it could have been there to begin with if you're teaching it to someone new. I really don't think there would be many issues with that at all, actually.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it adds enough depth for the people wanting more and a little bit more strategy space and slight add to the complexity of their decision making, but really just from a teaching standpoint, it's not difficult.
Naturally, if you have an extra turn per round and all those things, is this one that you're looking at adding any real amount of time to the game, or is it still just as flow along and snappy?
Yeah, it's still very snappy. You know, the only thing that'll add time is just having just another extra decision to make on your turn, obviously. But in terms of how quick decision is, it does not add much time at all, which is another thing that I love about it.
There's a lot of like more stuff to this, and I'm totally fine with that. I love more stuff expansions. Moving on to the Winter Lights and Spooky Nights expansion, which I just appreciate that name. Anyway, we're looking at a holiday-themed Christmas drapery that you can put on, as well as a Halloween theme. And, I mean, I think it's really entertaining as an idea, because you look at most theme parks, they have, you know, Halloween weekends as Cedar Point, and you have the Christmas party and whatever everywhere else. How did you land on doing essentially 2 different expansions at the same time? Because looking over over this, it looks like the ghosts and spooky nights that do the enhancement, they feel like they're going to be pretty different than what the Christmas trees do in Winter Lights.
The two mini expansions have completely different rules in what they're doing and goals. I've always liked Fright Fest growing up, and I'm hoping to go there in a couple weeks from now, which is Six Flags version of Halloween festivities. And I've always been a big spooky season and horror movie fan, and so I thought of working on kind of a Fright Fest version of this game. And just while I was working on that, at one point Christmas trees and Christmas popped in my head. I was like, I can do maybe a Christmas variant of this as well. So it kind of started with the spooky side and then became the Christmas side as well.
When players are using these, it looks like you can slot the new board on the other side across from the innovation board. But is there any kind of restriction to playing with one or the other? I'm assuming these are double-sided components, or are they a completely different set?
They're a completely different set of things, actually, and you can combine them into one game if you want that vibe. And you can combine that with the innovation expansion too. So you can basically bottle up all these expansions together to create one epic experience.
This is neat.
I'm excited about this. If I was reading this correctly, the ghosts are something that you essentially haunt your rides and they give an extra boost on them?
Yeah. There's these little adorable ghost meeples, and you assign them to different rides during your advertising step. And based on the ghost gives you, you get a special bonus if you advertise that ride. So little added bonus there.
Oh, that's neat.
That's cool.
A nice little incentive to sit there and say, hey, do the thing.
Yeah, and there are a new set of concession tiles that come out for that. One's got like a little candy corn in the artwork, for instance, and they can provide you with like one emotion and a ghost, which is kind of a wild card of a bonus that you're gonna receive each advertising step as a replacement to some of the concession tiles. And then there'll be some rides that will bring you in ghost as well, with really cool spooky themed artwork from Detroit.
When we're looking at the Christmas side, the Christmas trees themselves, it looks like you may actually be dressing up some of the trees that are left in your park.
Yeah, like I said, the tree meeples from Tenpenny is one of my favorite components in board games, and these probably top that with little Christmas tree lights on them.
Yes.
That you will start with some on your board, and you can get more later too, but it really adds to the spatial puzzle element, because when you build an attraction adjacent to one of these Christmas trees, you're going to be moving up a special new cheer track and gaining benefits from that, like lighting up your village by building right next to those trees. So Christmas trees also can't be removed. They're permanent on the board. So adding to the puzzle as well of where you want those Christmas trees to be. And you're really trying to get specifically attractions next to those.
So if you're using both, if you put the pirate ghost ship next to a Christmas tree, that's still going to move you up on cheer.
It'll both give you ghosts and cheer at the same time.
That's awesome. So. One of the hallmark things that we love on this channel is modular gaming, modular expansions, and it sounds like this is everything I want it to be. I'm very excited to hear about all these. If we're talking the Kickstarter, we might as well mention the last big thing on here, and that is the Collector's Edition box. Trays and storage for all this, because I'm not going to lie, I was looking at my base box, I'm like, how am I going to fit these expansions in here? And then I heard about the Collector's Edition box. I'm like, done, I'm in.
The box looks really nice. I also am really excited that there's going to be a box to fit all this in, because, when I was playtesting my prototypes of this and everything and carrying around separate boxes left and right, nice to just have one big box after all that. So,
including the storage solutions for all of the content, which is awesome. That's something that I think everybody should be subscribing to.
Agreed, definitely.
There's the old never say never type thing, but are you looking at doing anything beyond these, or are you thinking that this completes Tenpenny in your design eye?
That's a good question. I guess kind of a wait and see answer. I mean, I'll be honest, at the moment, I don't have too many ideas for a new grand or any kind of mini expansions beyond this at the time. I've brainstormed some ideas in the past that didn't end up making it to fruition, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see if something sparks in the future. Otherwise, I'm just going to enjoy what this is right now.
I have an idea, if you want to hear me out. As a secret Easter egg type of thing, if people see you out at Gen Con or something like that, if they could mention Tenpenny Parks to you, or like a secret password or something, and on you, you have a secret tile that is a minotaur to go in the middle of that labyrinth, it would be amazing.
Oh my gosh, that is possibly where I've been trying to think of potential marketing ideas for Gen Con, and I was thinking like maybe Thunderworks should send people to me or have to find me at some point to do something. I love it. I love it. I'm making sure Thunderworks hears that idea.
Yes.
I want to see Vincent Dutray do a Minotaur. Well, the only other request for the expansion, I mean, Jason's is significantly more entertaining than mine. I'm not going to lie. Stickers or something to go on the carousel to show what the value below is. It's the only real issue that I have with it is if you're sitting across the table, it's really hard to see what the cost is on the other side. Having something to put on top of the canopy of the carousel would be amazing.
Yeah, I've of course heard that. And we've talked about that, and I obviously can't speak for Thunderworks at all, but I think just really from an aesthetic standpoint, I think the reasoning keeping that off now is just the way it looks so much better without that. But at the same time, I do understand that, and I've looked to see if anyone's ever made their own stickers, which I've never come across at the moment, but I don't think the expansion is going to include anything like that.
Well, anyways,
Hey, we had to throw it out there.
I had to.
Oh, of course.
Well, with that, we are terribly excited for this. If you are interested in picking this up on Kickstarter, the Winter Lights and Spooky Nights is $24 on the Kickstarter campaign. Innovation is down to $36. You got both for $56 or the collector's edition with no base game in there and all the expansion stuff for $72 or the all-in for $108. For as much stuff as in just the base box, and from what I'm seeing from the, hey, here's what's in here images, there seems like there's going to be an enormous amount. So to me, I think the value proposition here is very strong. This is one of the best productions I've seen in quite some time. It's a phenomenal game. We really, really enjoy this over here.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. And yeah, I think it's a really good deal what the game's priced are currently on the Kickstarter for, as you said, how much that you do get packed into the mix. I really hope people look into this Kickstarter, and when it comes out for sale later in the year, that they really consider this. There's just so much that this game adds, so much more replayability factor to it, and I think the added complexity and decision making really appeals to greater audiences without once again sacrificing much of the game length time and still keeping a pretty short experience overall.
The other thing I saw that there is going to be Gen Con pickup for this for the 2026 Gen Con, which I am stoked about. Obviously, it's way too early to plan for anything like that, but if you're there, I'm going to have you sign my box.
Oh, heck
And
yes.
give him a minotaur.
I will be.
Give him the Minotaur.
Well, we'll see
up.
what happens. But no,
Sup,
that would
Theseus?
be awesome.
Have a Minotaur. Is there anything else that you would want to mention or bring up? Floor is yours.
I just really appreciate you all having me on. It was an absolute pleasure. I think I mentioned just before this, was a little bit nervous. Haven't done one of these interviews in quite some time, but I love the question you guys gave, the energy. Appreciate everything. I obviously want to shout out Thunderworks Games, the owner, Keith Marteka, and his wife, Claire Harrison, the developer of the expansions. So many more people. Dan Cunningham, who was the developer of the base game and did the solo rules at the time. Just so many great people in the industry I have met for this, and it's just such a gracious, thankful opportunity on my end to be able to share this game with everyone and be able to be on a podcast like this.
Thank you very much for taking the time and being willing to do it. This was really fun. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, and if people are super interested in grabbing this, you should definitely go ahead and take a look at the Kickstarter ASAP. I just did the math for everybody just to go and make it easy. It is 25% off the total of everything in here, which that is
it's a really
a
good deal.
sizable discount. Jump on this Kickstarter.
And especially if it got a Gen Con pickup, then you don't have to worry about the shipping.
And maybe get a Minotaur.
And maybe get a Minotaur.
I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking about that Minotaur. Yes.
Keith is going to have Nate walk up and be like, so, I have an idea. And then he's going to be very mad.
You can tell him it was Jason from Board All the Time, and it's all his fault, and you're welcome.
You got it.
With that, everybody, I am going to say what I normally do, and that's get out of my house
No.
All right.
and go for a ride.